Hey there, and welcome to the Unleash Your Greatness Within podcast. You know, it's my goal to share with you and people like yourself principles that can help you become a better leader, better manager, and so forth, but also help you become a higher achiever. And that's my goal today. I want to share with you in this short little video as I sit here in El Paso, Texas, in my hotel room. And I'm just going to make this video real quick where I share with you the 7 principles, or the 7 C's as in cat, the 7 C's of trust.
My passion and my mission to help you unleash your greatness within. My heart goes out to the underdogs that's on their way. If you think you can go from good to great, okay, let's motivate. Greatnesswithin.com. TJ Hoisington. Greatnesswithin.com. Oh, if you dreaming it, believe in it, work hard for it, and in the process serve others in a positive way. Think you can do it.
Okay, what are the 7 C's of trust? Well, let me start by just saying, you know, I've always been a fan of Stephen Covey, and I've come up with these 7 C's on my own independently. But one thing Stephen Covey said is that low trust requires a lot of rules. He also said cultures that have low trust have a tight window of control. And if you have followed me at all, you know that I've mentioned before that great leaders give control rather than take control. They share as much information as possible, and they give as much ownership of responsibility to their people as they possibly can. People want to be in on things. People want to do their best in many cases. And so you've got to give them responsibility that helps them grow and gets that norepinephrine, pumping in their brain, and they feel like they're making progress. All that is really important. But in terms of trust, there are 7 things that have to be in place to create a high trust environment, a high trust team, a family, whatever the facet might be for you. These 7 things should apply. And the first one is that of competence. So number 1 is, as a leader, you've got to be competent. You have to have a respectful level of skill for whatever your responsibilities are, right? It's one thing, and sure, there are going to be moments when you don't know the answer, but by and large, you have got to have a certain level of competency related to whatever your responsibilities are. So does that mean you got to improve? Maybe some continuing education and so forth. If you want to have continued respect of your team, you got to have high levels of competence. Now, like I said, that doesn't mean you have to have the answer to everything. That's why you have people on your team to help with that. I can't help but think about, in his book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, he shared about a libel suit in Chicago with the Chicago Tribune when they sued Henry Ford. Yeah, Henry Ford. And they started to question him in the trial about all these simple questions about the Constitution and simple questions about politicians. And I think in that lawsuit they talked about communism and so forth. And let me just share with you, I've got my phone here. Let me just share with you exactly what happened in this trial. Henry Ford, when taken into court in a libel suit by the Chicago Tribune in 1919, was mocked as an ignorant pacifist. When he was asked a series of rudimentary knowledge questions to belittle him and prove his ignorance, Ford retorted, quote, "If I should really want to answer the foolish questions you have just asked, or any other questions you have been asking me, let me remind you that I have a row of electric push buttons on my desk, and by pushing the right button, I can summon to my aid men who can answer any question I desire to ask concerning the business to which I am devoting most of my efforts. Now, will you kindly tell me why I should clutter my mind with general knowledge for the purpose of being able to answer questions when I have men around me who can supply me with any knowledge I require. Okay, so hey, just go with me on this for just a second. Listen, it is important that you're competent and you have a lot of the answers at your fingertips that you can help your team with and train them and so forth and be a good example. But there's also going to be moments where you don't have the answer and you realize the people around you might have more knowledge than you do. And as a leader, you're going to respect that. You're going to encourage that. You're going to lean on their knowledge and so forth when it comes to competence. There's a balance with that. And so make sure that you have a certain level of competence. And of course, Henry Ford did. He built a multi-million-dollar company by creating the Ford cars and so forth. Unbelievable. Genius in his own right. All right. Number 2 is clarity. It is vital that you are clear with your expectations. Leaders that make the time and spend the time to clarify the road that we're moving on is vital for success in terms of developing trust. Making sure everybody on the team is clear about the outcome, the focus, the vision is going to be vital when it comes to your success as becoming an influential leader. Number 3, successful leaders of the 7 C's is consistency or consistent. And that is, you're not waffling all over the place. People learn to trust you because you're consistent. You don't come in one day happy and jovial, and then the next day you come in depressed, right? That inconsistency can confuse and mismatch the perception that people have for you. Number 2 is, in terms of being consistent, what plans have you put forward? What can people depend on in terms of maybe the barriers, the walls that are okay, the ones that are acceptable, so forth? Like, for example, is punishment consistent under similar circumstances, or is it inconsistent? And you know what? You want to be consistent in your approach, whether it be emotional and attitudinal, and whether it has to do with processes and procedures amongst all your employees. Be consistent, all right? That's really critical. Being consistent builds trust. The same way that when you go into a room you've never been in and there are doors in the room, I guarantee you, it doesn't matter what room you go into, you've never been in that room before, hey, you could go over to that door and you can open it and you can walk out, right? Probably no worry on your part. Why? Because throughout your life, thousands of times you've opened doors before that have similar handles or operate a similar way. Therefore, you have trust based on past experience, consistency, that this is how a door opens, and therefore that increases the trust. All right, the next one is caring or connectiveness, right? Cultures that have a high trust atmosphere and leaders who are respected at a high level and trustworthy care about their people. And I think it's important that you find ways to celebrate the wins of your people, to celebrate and reward the effort along the way. Of course, we're going to reward oftentimes the end result of a project, but what about the little wins along the way? Do we give attaboys and attagirls? Do we care? Do we do our one-on-ones? Do we visit with people in the hallway and they share something with us that might be maybe a family challenge or something that they're struggling with? Do we show some empathy in terms of how we respond to them? Do we truly listen to them? One of the keys to building rapport and staying in rapport with a person is sincere interest. When you show that you're truly listening and that you're interested in their story and then supporting them, whatever their outcome desire is, that's critical, okay? It shows that you care, and it's vital that you show empathy. I'll tell you what, we could go into a lot of research about this, and you know what? With the the younger generation today, they want more empathy. And that doesn't take away from maybe some of us from the older generation. We also want empathy. Okay, so make sure that you're giving empathy. You're catching people in the act of doing what's right, and you're complimenting them. Okay, that's vital. But truly, it's about really listening to them. If you are visiting with someone in a one-on-one, truly ask questions and then listen. The sign of a great conversationalist is someone that will ask questions 20% of the time and then listen 80% of the time. That is the sign of a great conversationalist. Why? Because it gets the other person to talk. Well, let me ask you this question. What's everybody's favorite subject? Of course, you probably just answered it. Everybody's favorite subject is themselves. So if you want to be a good conversationalist and you want to show that you care, spend more time being curious and asking questions of the person you're visiting with, and then listen and ask follow-up questions, and then listen some more. And I tell you what, all of a sudden that person will feel that you really care. And that's the kind of culture thing that people want, and that you as a leader should want to develop, right? And if you're a driver personality that's very process-oriented, that is probably really foreign to you, okay? Because you're all about getting it done, and maybe your personal satisfaction doesn't come from accolades coming from someone else or recognition coming from someone else, because I've learned this over time working with people. Maybe it's just the fact that you got the project done on time. Maybe you did a good job at work that day. All that makes a difference in how you feel. But there's some people, and a high percentage of them, right? Probably 60% of the people out there, when they do a good job, it means everything to them for you to compliment them, for you to notice them. And that shows you care. All right. By the way, in 1867, the great 19th century writer on British politics said this. And I'm sorry, I don't have his name right here. But he says two things. The English Constitution lays into two institutions, the dignified and the efficient. There's a balance between being warm and empathetic and dignified, and there's also the side that's more process-oriented, results-oriented, and so forth. The key is getting both of those equally balanced. All right, that's that. The next C is confidence. Think about that. Listen, not every leader has to walk around with their pores oozing confidence and charisma, right? That's not the ultimate determination of whether or not you're an effective leader or whether or not you have influence. There are quiet, introverted people that have high competence and show support to their people and get the job done that are strongly respected. So I'm not talking about one type of attitude that will determine whether you're a good leader or not. No, but what I am saying is having confidence that you're confident in the process, you're confident in the vision, you're confident that we can make this work, that we can make this happen, that if there's an obstacle, hey, I'm confident that, hey, all of you have the ingenuity, we're going to figure this out, and we're going to get it done right. Okay? And so having that confidence to be like that is vital. You think about the movie Master and Commander, who it starred Russell Crowe in the movie. What a great movie. But there's a part where another ship shoots a cannonball onto their ship, and you see him get knocked down, and then you see him get up and start marching orders all throughout the deck of that ship and showing that he was in command of a chaotic situation. And you know what? Everybody that watches that little clip as I show it sometimes, wow, they're just amazed at the confidence. Now, there's a couple side things there I'll just throw out here that doesn't make it perfect, but it's beautiful to watch this charisma and this confidence take place. But what would happen if Russell Crowe, or the captain of the ship, got hit by the ball and didn't get back up? Would all those people that he barked orders to, would they know what to do if he wasn't even the one walking down the gangway or walking down the deck of the ship and telling everyone what to do? What if he got knocked down and didn't get back up? Would the people be prepared to take ownership of the ship without him as the leader? Okay, and that would be a question that I would have for an audience. So what's the side point to that? Make sure you're sharing as much information with your people, providing the skills and the training with your people so that they are equipped in case you're on vacation, in case you move on to a different position and so forth, that the team can still operate without your presence. And it takes confidence to do that. It takes confidence to share information that you might think, wow, that could probably hurt me in the long run because that person knows more than me and could end up taking my job down the road, because if that person has all my information, then why do they need me? But the truth is, and you should just know this, just trust me on that, if you're the type of person that's training your people, you're training your people to take your position at any time, then that just says a lot about you, that you're the type of person that should be promoted to the next leadership position. Your value is going to be great with that team because of the culture that you tend to create. And that takes a lot of confidence, especially when things look dire and the market is down or whatever, to have confidence that we can get through this and we can still be high achievers even in a down market. Have confidence. All right. The next one is commitments, right? So the next C, so that would be number 6, is commitments and promises. When you make a commitment, you stay true to that commitment. If you set up a time to meet with someone, don't cancel on them. Do whatever you can to be consistent with the agreement that you made with that person to show up, okay? If you promise something like a bonus or something else, and then later on you pull that bonus away, that speaks really, loudly. So just keep that in mind as you are making promises with people and so forth, that you keep those promises and you keep those commitments, right? That helps increase the trust that you are dependable. That's critical. You are reliable because you're consistent in the way that you treat people, and you're committed to treating people in a uniform way, and you're committed to the vision. That's going to be really vital. And then the last one is number 7 is character. Think about that. What kind of character do you have? Are you the type that will stand on principle for the right thing, or will you get sucked into that mindset of trying to climb the ladder of success and position inside the company that you're willing to throw your principles aside? Now, with that said, I have an example that I want to share with you that I think illustrates the power of character, that in the moment you might lose, but in the long run, I would argue you would win. And it has to do with satisfaction, which I'll share in just a second. All right, so this is written by Jim Thomas. It was also written in one of Stephen Covey's book, and so it's about a tennis tournament in 2005. It was an Italian tournament in a court in Rome. Andy Roddick, the great tennis player, was paired against Fernando Verdasco of Spain. The contest reached match point in Roddick's favor. Verdasco's second serve was called out by the line judge. It appeared at that point that the game was over. But Roddick saw things that the umpire missed. He said that the ball was in and called the umpire's attention to a slight indentation on the clay court. The evidence was unmistakable. The ball had landed on, not beyond, the line. The umpire allowed Roddick to overrule him and awarded the point to Verdasco. Roddick ended up losing that tennis match with that call against himself. That is character. When you see money on the floor in a store, what do? Do you take it and put it in your pocket? Or do you take it up to the front and say, hey, I found this on the floor? What's your character? I was taught this at a very, very early age. And I gotta say, people against the odds, right, that stand on principle are the people that live satisfied and fulfilled lives. Quick thought on satisfaction. Have you ever worked really hard? You were exhausted one day coming home from work. It was a hard day, but you gave your best. But you were exhausted, but you came home and you felt happy. Maybe you were burnt out and tired, but deep down, did you feel some satisfaction from that day's work? As I ask audiences that all the time, I did today, right? Every hand went out. People went up. Every hand went up, and people can think of a time when they gave their very best, and even though they were exhausted, they felt some satisfaction. Well, I don't know if you know this, but the word satisfaction, if you break it down in the Latin root words, you have satis, which means enough, and then it ends with the word action. So satis, action creates satisfaction when you go above and beyond what you're asked to do to give your very best. Do you show up at work and give the bare minimum, or do you show up at work and give your very best, even if you're not getting all the praise you hope for? Or if you just kind of slumbered in your position, your performance is about average with everybody else, but no. The Unleash Your Greatness Within concepts, what I've been teaching for a lot of years is, despite the environment, we raise our standards. We do more than what we are paid for. And that is character, to give your best even when it's not demanded on you to do so. It's because of your own self-principles and character and integrity. Okay? So, hey, listen, if you'll use these 7 C's of trust to grow your organization, develop your team, make sure you as a leader are in alignment with these 7 C's, I promise you that you will begin to create a team, a culture, you'll become more approachable as a leader, and you'll start getting the best ideas out of your people, and the culture will begin to shift within your team and your organization, okay? Go tackle each one of these, develop them, make them habits of your own. I wish you the best. Now go out there and unleash your greatness within.